Welcome to Goldfish on Games, where today we're going to be doing something a little bit public with the Amiga. Public domain, that is, as we check out Now That's What I Call Games. They made 3 of these and they were produced by the Multimedia Machine, which includes Now That's What I Call Games, which the name is riffing on that famous music compilation called That's What I Call Music, which actually has been around since the 70s. That was followed up with Now That's What I Call Games Volume 2, which actually has become quite hard to track down. And the 3rd CD was called Games and Goodies, and as we can see I have Volume 1 and 3. And they both share a very similar art and branding, which is continued on the back, where it's just a list of games that it includes. Opening them up we find the CD, and both have a registration card that doubles as the cover. There's no real manuals here. And while there might be this large CD32 branding on the front, it actually also has this little bit of text in the corner that informs us that it's also compatible with the CD-TV and in theory any Amiga with a working CD drive. And while it loads, let's quickly talk about what we might find, as this is what we tend to call a PD or public domain collection. PD software was a big thing on the Amiga. It was when someone would make a program or game and release it for free, aka they would put it out into the public domain to be freely shared. There might be an address where you could send money if you liked it, but it wasn't expected. It was more about getting your game or program out there than really making money. There was also a shareware scene, and I expect to find a few shareware games or software on this as well. And that's confirmed when we get to the main menu, where we have the option of listing the PD and shareware games. And there's also an info screen about the company, the Multimedia Machine. And let's start with the PD games. Now, due to the large number of games on the CD, we won't be able to cover all of them. Not without making this a massively long video. Though if you are interested in that, please let me know. So let's just take a random sampling of the games and see what we get. And we have to start with Air Race 2, in which the menu lets us know it's a joystick game, and with no additional information from the author, it just launches into this nice looking title screen. And well, it seems like it's our old favourite, a shoot 'em up construction kit game. They even made a start screen, which is a nice touch. And in game there's no getting away from its Suke roots. But I will say they have put a bunch of detail into the ground, and the paths that the enemies take. So they've actually put a lot of effort into this. And if you are interested in what you can actually do with the shoot 'em up construction kit, I did a whole video on it a while back. But in typical shoot 'em up fashion, it doesn't take long for me to die and to get a game over. And well, we just get to play it again if we want. But if you decided you've had enough, well, here's the thing. Most of these games don't have a quit option. So if you do want to try something else, well, that just means hitting the reset button and waiting for it to restart and reload the main menu. So let's move on to Assault, which is a mouse game, so we better have a mouse connected. And wait a minute, I recognise that screen. That's from Premiere, a game that I've actually also reviewed a while back. And it seems they just lifted this as a loading screen. And what you can also hear is the title screen starts off with that famous Hallelujah sample. We're gonna hear a lot of famous samples as we go. And starting the game, well, we get another sample.
Get ready.
And shot very quickly. It seems you've only got one life. And the goal is to shoot absolutely anything that shows up in one of those windows. Doesn't matter if it's copyright infringing icon, anything that shows up in a window better be shot before they shoot you.
Get ready.
So overall this is a very basic game, though that is quite common with PD titles.
Get ready.
Game over, man.
Get ready.
Next up is Battle Cars, which actually has some notes from the developer, which is nice. And after entering our name using the joypad, we get the choice of 1 or 2 players. Now let's just go for one for now and... wow, this is a 3D car combat game. It is actually quite nice and smooth. I'm not sure if the extra CPU grunt of the CD32 is helping here or not, but it is really quite cool. The goal is actually quite simple. You just keep shooting the other car till one of its armor groups gets down to 0 and you win. Which does have a little bit of an anticlimactic screen to let you know. This is actually quite a nice little title. There's not much depth to it, but it is fun to play and quite impressive to look at. It's a definite step up from what we've seen so far. And it also has a quit button, which just returns us to a black screen. Doesn't return us to the menu at all. Time to hit that reset button. And Crossfire is next, which describes itself as a PacMan shoot 'em up. Which turns out you have to move between gaps and shoot at the aliens when they pop out. And this is bad, as the only way you can shoot is when you're in motion, which means moving towards the bullets that are firing at you. And it's quite possibly you'll get hit right at the start of the game as well. This isn't fun to play at all. And it seems even the menu got its name wrong, as it's X or Crossfire, not Crossfire. So let's quickly move on to Diamond Thief, which is another mouse game and not one that you would call a looker, but it is actually quite interesting at least. You have to guide your buggy around the screen, but you don't have direct control. It's more that you give it speed and direction to move based on how you move the mouse. You can shoot with the left mouse button and use bombs with the right. The goal is to collect all those diamonds, which are those yellow flashing things. But before long, monsters will show up from those pits at the bottom that you can either shoot or avoid. And if you get all the diamonds, then the exits on the side of the screen will open up and you can escape. But only if you manage to get that buggy between the walls of the mouths. It's actually quite difficult. But overall, it's actually quite a fun game to play. This is definitely a game that plays better than it looks. And we're moving on up to Elevation, a fast game from developers in the slow lane. This is one of those crazy little PD games that you just love to come across. The goal is just to get past all the elevators to make it to the top left of the screen. It's simple, with simple graphics, and the most mental soundtrack around. It really does like to mess around with those sound samples, doesn't it?
Marvelous.
And you get more crazy samples when you finish a level. It's quick, silly, quirky, it's actually a lot of fun to play. Now let's lead on to Leading, or Leadings as it's actually known. I've noticed a few of the games haven't been named correctly in the menu, and it's not a character limit either, so I'm not sure what's going on. But never mind, as we have a so-called Lemmings clone, in which we have some balls that we have to get to the exit using the tools provided. Now the way they are given is a bit odd. It has a list of what is needed to win the level, but they're given to you in a random order. So when it gives you an item, you have to think about where you might use it, or you have to try and skip it. Now you do only have a set number of these items, so it is quite possible that you'll end up not having the bit that you need because you didn't think about where it was required. But overall, it's not a bad idea for a game, It's just the implementation isn't that great. Take the moving platforms for example, they just move up and down on their own, so you just have to wait for the cosmic alignment of it and the ball for it to move it on to the next section. It might do it straight away, or it might take 30 seconds, a minute, who knows? In theory, eventually it will, but it could take a while, which makes it a little bit more frustrating than it really should be. And it's time to whacker our way onto our first arcade clone, PacSim, which obviously is a take on PacMan, but it's not the closest version that you'll ever come across. The map is quite obviously different, but there's also no ghost house, and when you take one of them out, they'll just move to a set position. All the ghosts are also the same colour, and I don't think their logic is correct either. But it is quite obviously PacMan, and actually not the worst version I've ever played. Though it's not one you'd probably return to. And I hope now you've got some patience, because the next game is Solitaire, everyone's favourite card game. And this is actually a decent enough looking version. And being Solitaire, there's probably not a lot that I could tell you about this game. You could learn all of it by just booting it up on your computer right now. But the reason I'm showing this is the fact that quite a few of the other games have been shoot 'em up construction kit games. It's been a little thin on the ground of unique ideas and titles. So let's move on to our last game in the PD section, Vector, which is a take on that classic game from Tron, The Light Cycles, which starts off with another very famous sample when you start the game. But thankfully it's not a direct copy of Light Cycles, as it has its own interesting mechanic that allows you to speed up by holding down the fire button, but hold it down too long and your light cycle will overheat and explode, so you have to be careful about where and how long you use it for. Which wouldn't be so bad, but it doesn't feel like it reacts quick enough for it to be a great version of this game. It's not bad, but it's not perfect. So let's check out some of what it calls shareware. And I say what it calls, as the first game is Chess, which turns out to be a port of GNU Chess. And that's not shareware at all, as it's completely free. So we're not off to a great start. A start almost as good as my game of chess. The game itself actually looks nice enough, but it does take a bit of time to think about its next move. But it does seem to be relatively competent and a decent enough port of GNU Chess, so it's got that going for it. So let's move on and see if we can find any other real shareware titles. Ooh, Drive Wars says it's a shareware title, at least the author thinks so in the docs, and when we get past what seems to be a very badly done Deluxe Paint title screen that I think I could have done better, we find... What? Another Suke game? Oh dear, this is actually truly crap. It's amazing they wanted $7 for this. But they did say you should only send it if you enjoyed it, and yeah, I didn't enjoy this one. So, let's round this out with Mega Ball, which is a Breakout, Arkanoid or Krypton Egg clone, depending on where you're coming from. That has lots of power-ups that isn't actually all that bad really. Everything moves quite quickly and the ball physics seems quite decent. The power-ups are interesting. What more could you want? Though I will say the masking on the sprites isn't that great, as the explosion when the bat dies seems to actually clear part of the screen. That is being a little bit nitpicky really. There are many more games on here, 100 in total if the box is to be believed, though I will say the shareware side of things seemed to be a little light. And there was far far too many games that used the shoot 'em up construction kit. The boasting that they only included the best feels a little weak. But there were a few quite interesting titles, so that's not too bad. There were also a few games that needed the keyboard. So this wasn't a CD that just anyone could have picked up and played every single title, as the CD32 keyboard wasn't the easiest thing to get, though you could use an Amiga 4000 one if you happen to have it. I do enjoy collections like these, as you never know what you're going to find. It could be interesting, it could be funny, it's probably crap, but more than likely it's going to be an arcade clone. So it is quite interesting to check out. So if you've got a favourite, please let me know down in the comments, as I'd love to check it out. So until next time, I was the Goldfish, that just about lived up to its name, and this was Goldfish on Games. Thank you for watching my video. I do hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, you can let me know down in the comments, or you can use those buttons just below. You know the ones I mean. Or if you're not sure yet, then you can check out 2 other videos that I've done that are on the screen right now. So thank you again, and I hope to see you soon.